Hello everyone and welcome back to the GCSE Maths series. Today we're going to be taking a look at the quadratic formula and when exactly we need to use it. So the quadratic formula is, as you can see here, x is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And I know this can seem like a very loaded formula, but as you get used to it, it will just become one of them things that will just roll off the tongue and you'll be able to use it very easily throughout your maths. So the quadratic formula, we use it to solve equations of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. And in other words, this is a quadratic sequence. And a quadratic sequence simply means where the highest power of x is to the power of 2, as you can see. So the highest power of x in this general formula is x squared, therefore this is a quadratic. We need to use this when we cannot factor out um, the quadratic easily, so it doesn't split into, say, x plus 2 or x plus 3. We cannot create these two factors of 2 and 3, so we need to find the exact answers of x by plugging into these formulas. So let's take a look at a few examples. First of all, we're going to look straight to number 2 because number 1 I put in first, but number 2 is probably the easier one to do. So looking back at our general, we noticed that A, B, C follow in chronological order. So, labeling our equation number 2, we can label this as A, minus 5 as our B, and 2 as our C. As you can see, it's equal to 0, so therefore A, B, and C are finalized and in the correct form that they need to be in. So, looking at our formula on the left-hand side, we can just say our minus b is going to be minus 5 plus or minus, and I'll show you exactly what that means just in a second, the square root of b squared, which will be minus 5 squared, minus 4 times by a, which is 2, times by our c, which is also 2, over 2a, which is going to be 2 times by 2. So you can plug this in directly into your calculator, and what you'll see is, actually, wait, let me explain what the plus or minus thing means first. So the plus or minus symbol means that you conduct the formula once by using the plus sign in this place, sorry, and then you conduct the formula once again using the minus sign in that same place. Therefore, you will end up with two answers. So you plug this into your calculator by putting in exactly what I've shown on screen, and you should get two answers. The first one being x is equal to 2, and the second one being x is equal to 1/2. Similarly, we can look at our question number 1, and we can say that in this case, our a is simply 1, our b is simply 4, and our c is once again 1. Now we're going to use our minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a to solve for x. And this question here tells us to solve to two decimal places. So minus b in this case is going to be minus 4 plus or minus the square root of b squared, which will be 4 squared, minus 4 times by 1 times by 1 again, divided by 2 times by a, which is 2 times by 1. Once again, we're going to plug this into our calculator, and we're going to get two answers of the first answer being, minus 2 plus root 3, and the second answer being minus 2 minus root 3. Now you may be thinking, what do I do in situations like this? Simply, you then put that into your calculator. Obviously you've got that, and you press the SD button. It looks something like this if you have the Casio ClassWiz. Simply tap on this button and it will give you two answers. It will give you your simplified answer. So in this case, minus 0.26 or 27 to two decimal places, And this one will be, if I can just see, this one will be minus 3.73. And these answers are to 2 decimal places as the question requires. Okay, looking at some more questions, it tells us that x squared minus 3x minus 4 is equal to 0. We need to solve this equation showing our working carefully. Once again, we're going to use our formula of minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Now, we notice that 1 is our a, minus 3 is our b, and minus 4 is our c. So we want to plug this into our formula. So minus of minus 3 plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is going to be minus 3 squared, minus 4 times by 1 times by minus 4, all divided by 2 times by a, which in this case will be 1. So we're going to plug this into our calculator, and we should get answers of firstly, x will be equal to 4, and secondly, x will be equal to minus 1. Now, I'm going to show you guys a trick now, how to check whether your answers are in or are correct, or absolutely correct. Because obviously in the exam, it can be quite stressful, and a quick way to double check is to take one of your values for x. So I'm going to take x is equal to 4, rewrite your equation, and then everywhere you see x, put your value for x in. So in this case, it'll be 4 squared minus 3 times by 4 minus 4, and see what it's equal to. So obviously you can see that 16 minus 3 times by 4 is 12, minus 4 is equal to 0, which is exactly what it should be equal to. Therefore, we know our value is correct. You can also do it for this value here to double check your answer. But usually, well, obviously, when one is correct, it's more than likely the second one will be correct because you're using the same formula, just changing the sign from plus to minus. Okay, looking at number 4, I don't know why 3's there. We have a equal to 2, b equal to minus 1, and c equal to minus 3. So we're going to once again put it into our formula, and this is going to look something like minus b will be minus 1, plus or minus the square root of b squared will be minus 1 squared, minus 4 times by 2 times by minus 3, all divided by 2 times by a, which will be 2 times by 2. Now, when you put this into your calculator, you'll get something along the lines of, once I put it in, you'll get x equal to 3 over 2 and x equal to minus 1. Okay, now let's move on to some slightly more application-based questions. Okay, now looking at some more application-based questions. Firstly, we're given a rectangle. We are told the area of our rectangle, and we're given 2 sides of this particular rectangle. So it tells us to firstly form the quadratic equation and then solve for x. So we definitely know we're going to be using the quadratic formula because it mentions a quadratic equation. Now, we have the area. We need to think laterally, and what I mean by laterally is think beyond the question. What is the question telling us? How can we use what they've given to work out our quadratic equation? Well, they've given us the area of our rectangle, and we have 2 sides. So the formula for the area of the rectangle is length times by width, right? And we have 2 expressions for our length and width, right? An expression being a representation of the true length. So what you can do is say, okay, we have the area and we have 2 components which can create a formula for our area. So why don't we just put in our 2 expressions, so x plus 4 times by 2x minus 1 and equal it to 45. And this is the first step, and this is the critical step in a question like this. Once you get this step, it should all be plain sailing from here on out. So using our FOIL method, where we'll expand out these brackets, firstly by timesing our first term. So we have 2x squared as our front term times by our front term. Then looking at our outside terms, which will be our x times by minus 1, which will be minus x. Looking at our inside terms, we have plus 8x, and our last terms in the respective brackets will be minus 4. Simplifying by collecting like terms, we'll get 2x squared plus 7x minus 4 equal to 45. Now, here is a common mistake that loads of people will make in the exam. We are told to form the quadratic equation. This, if you remember, is not a quadratic equation because of this 45. We need it to be in the form ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. So simply, we minus 45 from both sides to create that 0. Therefore, our expression will look something like this. 2x squared plus 7x minusing 45 from both sides will get minus 49 is equal to 0. Now what we can do is to plug this in to our quadratic formula. And if you remember, I'm going to write it up here. It's minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Okay, now plugging this in, we have a to be equal to 2, b to be equal to 7, and c is equal to minus 49. Now, plugging this in, we get minus 7 plus or minus the square root of b squared, which will be 7 squared, minus 4 times by our a, which will be 2, times by our c, which will be minus 49, divided by 2 times our 2 times our a, which is 2. Now, plugging this into our calculator, we will get two answers of 7 over 2 and minus 7. Okay, now looking at this, we know that our x cannot be a negative number because we're talking about a dimension here. We're talking about the length of a side. So it's impossible for our x to be minus 7 because if we were to plug our minus 7 in, we'd get minus 7 plus 4 equaling to minus 3. Therefore, the length of the side would be a negative number, which in theory is completely impossible. Therefore, we know that x is equal to 7 over 2. Okay, looking at another question like this. We're told to show that this leads to a quadratic equation. And what exactly have they shown us? They've shown us a right angled triangle with 3 lengths. Straight away, my mind is going to Pythagoras' theorem, which states that a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. Now, if you're not confident on this topic, I do have a video in the playlist which will absolutely teach you everything you need to know about Pythagoras. But here is a quick rendition of what Pythagoras is. Opposite the right angle, we label this c, and a and b are similar in the fact that you can label them either way. I can label them as x being b and vice versa. So we can first set this equation up to be a squared, which is going to be x squared, plus b squared, which will be x plus 2 squared, is equal to our c squared, which is x plus 7 squared. So x squared will remain there, and x plus 2 squared can be written out like this. And so can x plus 7 squared. Now, expanding out using our FOIL method, we can say that x squared plus 2x plus 2x plus 4 is equal to x squared plus 7x plus 7x plus 49. Now, collecting like terms, we'll end up with a quadratic on this side being 2x squared plus 4x plus 4 is equal to x squared plus 14x plus 49. Now, what we want to do is to get this into a quadratic form. Remember, we need one side equal to 0. What we're going to do is we're going to move our equation on this side over to this side. The way we do this is to first minus x squared from both sides, then minus 14x from both sides, and then minus 49. So firstly, dealing with the x squared, we're going to get 2x squared minus x squared will give us x squared. Then minusing 14x from both sides, we'll get an answer of minus 10x. Then minusing 49 from both sides, we'll get minus 45. And this will be equal to 0. And hopefully you can notice that this is in quadratic equation form, because our highest power of x is x squared, and we have one side equal to 0. So, using our formula of minus b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a, we'll get something like this. Minus 10 plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is minus 10 squared, minus 4 times by 1 times by minus 45, all divided by 2 times by a, which in this case will be 1. Plugging this in to your calculator now, you will get two answers of the first one being 5 plus root 70, and the second one being 5 minus root 70. Now once again, we put this in to our calculator and press our SD button to get it into decimal form. So we see that this one is equivalent to 13.4, and our x here is equal to negative 3.36. Therefore, we reject our second solution and we say that x is equal to 13.4 to 1 decimal place. Okay, that's going to conclude today's revision video on the quadratic formula. As always, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.